Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we are at 12021 Southeast Tibbetts Street here in Portland, located at the back of the home. I describe everything as if you're standing in the street facing the front door. There's the garage behind us, so right here at the back, under a little green valve cover box, you've got a 4-inch ABS cleanout. We're going to check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water is running. Off we go here. I am zeroed out. Now this thing might be doing a shot to the alleyway. We'll see here. My assumption, it made enough turns there now. We'll see. My assumption is it was going to go up the driveway. Very common setup for these old homes. This is an old cesspool conversion. This is why it's going out the back like it is. I'm hoping it's not I'm actually hoping we go the alleyway. There's a set of turns in this thing that's really wonky. It makes it difficult to push the camera through it. And what I was just about to say right before I hit that little tiny, that little belly there is rinky-dink. Anyway, what I was just about to say before getting to that spot, cesspool conversions, anytime a line goes out the back and wraps around a house, you end up with a sewer line that's about, generally speaking, at least 3 times longer than it would normally be if it went out the front. So what that means is you've got a much tighter tolerance in grading the line, and they are much more prone to settling issues of varying degrees, be it significant or minor. So I tend to treat these a bit differently than the average sewer line. I don't nitpick them. I don't generally get nitpicky anyway, but anyway, after I've done over 25,000 sewer scopes, I'm sure at least 1,000 of those were flag lot sewers or cesspool conversions. It's very, very common, and often it comes with the territory. And I generally do not start recommending repairs on these lines unless the settling issues are really significant. So far, what I've seen are they look like bellies that are both going to drain out to probably a few feet long with probably only about a 1/4 inch of water in them. And as you can see, the line is absolutely spotless clean too. Extraordinarily clean sewer. And that is because the line's been treated properly. Homeowner here was not dumping all their cooking oil and grease down the line. Anyway, there's our main connection there at 101 feet. We're going to go locate really quick here while the pipe drains off. We are currently in 3034 PVC pipe. That appeared to be 6-inch. Anyway, we'll get another look at everything as we come back in here. But so far, considering 101-foot sewer on a flat property with no hillside to go down, very, very nicely installed line. I fully expect these lines to have some level of settling. Not expecting that is just unrealistic. It's even the best installers out there. It's a tough thing to compact that much ground and have every square inch of it stay put. This is looking good. I mean, I see settling like this on 30-foot long sewer lines, so that gives you an idea of what you're dealing with here. Superbly clean line. Thus far, it looks like it's got good flow. Alrighty, located the camera head successfully. Line terminates at the main lateral out on Southeast Tibbetts Street. As you face the front of the home from the road, line exits out the back of the house, hangs a right-hand turn, turns up the gravel driveway, and does a dead straight shot right up the middle of the driveway to the street. And it's quite a deep main. That's part of the reason why this thing got graded so nicely. My locator, I stopped trusting my locator once, honestly. It gets to around 13 plus feet deep. I was getting between a couple locates saying 13 and some saying below 15, so it's way down there, which provided a lot of room to grade this thing. Well, the 3034 PVC pipe looks great, drains off very nicely. Most, if not all of that, falls into city territory. other than maybe 5 feet or so that might reach the right of way, but either way it's in great shape. Alright, so this is the tail end of the furthest out belly here, right before the line dives. This one here dissipates off at about 70 feet. I suspect this thing's going to be pretty rinky-dink looking. I had a bathtub running full bore, which will exaggerate a 1/16 of an inch of water into what looks like an inch. And this thing is about... That water line's not even hitting the base of my camera lens. It gets around it. And right there it gets close to it. We'll call it 1/4 of an inch. Which is... I mean, this thing's only a belly by a hyper-technical standpoint. That's not the kind of belly we're looking for. It runs from 68 feet to 70 feet. That thing is light years away from repair worthy. You're blocking and backing up out of a 2-foot belly with a 1/4 inch of water. You are abusing that line like no tomorrow. Anyway, and for reference, I don't even consider repairs on the average home with a short sewer line until there's at least a 5-foot section of pipe with a minimum of an inch of water in it. That's with no water running at all. Even at that point in a 4-inch plastic sewer line, it still is about 80%, if not better, on the homeowner side as to whether that ever gets a blockage in it. There is a tiny little bit, although it's still... Some of that water's still moving. And what can happen sometimes is my camera starts moving. Like right now we're starting to go back into another little bit of a belly. As the camera goes back through a belly behind it, sometimes it'll slosh a little bit of the water out of it. So this one here dissipates out at about 45 feet approximately. And this one's got even, you're between a 1/16 and a 1/4. It depends on the part of the belly you're in. And this one runs from around 40 to 45 feet. Again, nowhere near repair worthy. And on a line like this, and at those distances there, even if those bellies had an inch of standing water in them, I still wouldn't recommend a repair on them. They're too far from the home for even that kind of a belly to cause an issue, unless the line's being abused. These things here have essentially zero bearing on functionality whatsoever. And back to my 5-foot belly rule with an inch of water. Generally speaking, these days, I don't recommend repairs on those in updated plastic pipe with smooth pipe walls, unless it's the first 5 feet of the line coming right out of the gate, right up against the house, and or underneath the home, where they're much more likely to result in a backup should a blockage occur. Alrighty, very, very nice looking sewer line there. Considering what you have to work with here, a line this length, that right there, I would consider it just as good as the average line with no standing water in it. That's how nicely that was installed. I'm trying to get the camera to go backwards. The problem is the cast iron pipe is right at the base of the T. I don't know. Let me see if I can finagle this thing with my prod. Trying to use my big screwdriver to bend this thing. There's a little bit of a lip on the cast iron there, and it's so close to the base of the clean out, I just cannot get the camera head to turn. Normally you've got 6 inches to a foot before you hit cast iron. Big long screwdriver here, I can't get underneath it and lift it. I'm going to try one more trick here. Alright, we're going to try the old string trick here. You're going to probably see, especially when I back the camera out, you'll see a white string in front of the camera. I'm going to try and use this to jump over the lip here. MacGyver style. reason I'm still having trouble getting over this. Can't tell if there's a whole bunch of scale on the flow line. Feels like I'm running into some kind of obstruction there right as I try and go backwards. Yeah, that flow line. So right now I'm actually holding my camera midair right now and bending the camera head. The flow line there is looking pretty beat up. You've got some pretty heavy scale. That's part of the reason my camera is having a time getting through here. The flow line is so dang rough. It doesn't want to get past this first little bit. I can't tell if we have an offset. It feels like my camera's getting almost pinched trying to go through here. Normally going back like that, it's just as smooth just about as going the other direction. I cannot figure out what the deal is here. Oh, okay. This might be... So I don't get a great view of it. I'm actually looking over the top of the pipe right now. I could actually rest my camera on top of the cast iron, as you can see here. That's the top of the sewer pipe. So I think what happened here is this piece of pipe shifted to some extent. I don't want to run my camera past that as I'm pushing it at a really sharp, awkward angle. Normally this is a very smooth run going backwards. It's no different than going the other direction. So I'm not going to try and shove back into there, but what I can tell you is that cast iron there is looking pretty worn out. In fact, what's in the flow line there almost has kind of a grainy texture to it, almost like sand. And sometimes that's it. Anytime you start seeing sand, in fact, I'm going to see if I can feel it with my hands here. Yeah, there is actually a grainy texture to it when I feel it on my camera with my fingers. That may actually be sand. The bottom of the pipe here, although it may look intact, you can get a big scale buildup layer over the flow line when the bottom of the pipe starts to channel or rot out, and or the top of the pipe here. I mean, if you see how, and they may have just simply shoved the cast iron into here. Normally, you do not get anywhere near a view like this. It's very odd to see that. I think we actually may have 3-inch cast that they shoved into the 4-inch clean out tee, because normally the cast iron is never this close into the clean out. But that looks like sand there. So my assumption here is that cast iron is open to the ground somewhere, and or it's possible when the ground gets saturated with water, it could actually be seeping through the space around the cast iron and the ABS plastic right here. But I think it's somewhat unlikely that's the case, mostly because that stuff would be, the pipe is graded proper once anything were to flow through there, and it would just be flowing down the plastic part of the line. So you've got some pretty thick scale ridges going up the sidewalls there on the left side. You can see that big thick layer of that. Top and bottom of the pipe look pitted. I would be ditching the cast iron. It does not look like it's in good condition. It's clearly still allowing water to get through it because I had the bathtub running there. It's just from a condition standpoint, it's stuff I would recommend updating, although it is still functioning. It looks like it's nearing the very end of its lifespan. And when I start getting that texture, it's nothing I can guarantee without seeing an obvious open spot to the ground. I wish this wasn't so rough on the camera and I would push it back through there. The only other things that would create that is if someone was putting it down the line for some odd reason. Like, I've seen people empty out aquariums, for instance, into a toilet, litter boxes, things like that. But usually the texture, litter boxes usually isn't sand, but aquariums and things can put that kind of stuff down the line. But in general, usually that means there's somewhere in the line upstream there where the line's exposed to the ground, and or it's also possible somewhere in the flow line there. You can get a scale buildup layer over the top of channeling. Sometimes it is very deceiving. It can kind of look like the pipe is intact, but in reality, underneath that scale layer, you've got rotted spots that are exposed to the ground, and then often will allow stuff to flow through either when water's actively flowing through the pipe and or when it's the rainy season and the ground gets saturated with water. So anyway, that would be my recommendation there. Everything from the clean out access to the main lateral connection, all of that is in very nice condition, super clean, flows great. Two bellies, once again, far too minor to need repairs. So line is functioning properly at this time from the clean out to the main lateral. Going back into the home, a little bit of a question mark there. The pipe condition on its own looks very rough, and I would recommend updating it.